Hello and welcome back to Unlocking Our Code podcast. Today I'm here with Lou.
Hey.
Hi, and tonight we're going to chat about broken patterns, what they look like, and how to recognize some of these behaviors and what are they? How do they play in our lives? I did want to give a small definition of what broken patterns are. Mm-hmm. And broken patterns refer to repetitive and often unconscious behaviors, thoughts, or emotions that hold us back, cause harm, or hinder our personal growth and well-being.
And how often are we all feel like that seems like a lot of our life.
Yeah.
That's right? What my whole life was like.
Yeah, because a lot of these patterns, they often are unconscious, right? People are not aware that this is even a pattern in any shape or way. A lot of us normalize it as something normal instead of going deeper
into try and figure it out. Mm-hmm. Or we'll, like I had mentioned to you before, when people make it, and it causes you harm because if you feel like it's something that has to do with you, when it bounces off to you, like you get somebody's reaction, and then you're like, it has to do, like, what is it? Like, why is this person that I'm with acting this way? Mm-hmm. And then we tend to not blame ourselves, but feel like it's like, oh, it's because of me, something's wrong with me.
Yeah, so it's definitely when people are projecting their stuff onto us and how we take it ourselves, right? A lot of the broken patterns stem from somewhere. They have a root. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times what we do is just stay on the broken patterns, but it's definitely a topic that we could really dive into because there's so much behind broken patterns.
Yeah. I feel that when you start to see, I'm starting to see it now more often, like in myself, because it's true. That's the word that I was looking for, projection, right? Like how when someone projects what they're going through and on you, and it could be something simple like, your partner, if it's like if you're in a marriage or a relationship, it can be like what your partner does that was a reaction to something that affects them, but then you're like, oh, I can't be like, he doesn't make me happy. Or like it's always like an us problem. Like it becomes like something with me, like we take it personal, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. But it's so hard to realize what these patterns are, because when you're not aware of them, you just don't. I mean, you don't know. We don't know what we don't know, and then when you learn, you're just like, wait, like that reaction has nothing to do with me. That reaction, this person is reacting from something that triggered them because of some sort of trauma that they're carrying, and so then it's like it becomes, I guess, easier. Like for me, it became easier to understand. Like, it has nothing to do with me. It's not a me problem. Like they're not acting this way because of me, because I'm not good enough, or because I'm not, I don't look a certain way, or because whatever. It really has to do with that same person where it's coming out of, like, the reaction.
Yeah, definitely. But, I think that what's really important with this topic is how do we even recognize that we're in a pattern? In a negative pattern in this case, right? Because there's also positive patterns, but in this case, how do we recognize we're in it, right?
The awareness part, like how do you even realize?
Yeah, I feel that, especially like for me, one of the ones that played very heavily in my journey was a pattern within my family system. I had a pattern of rescuing others, mm-hmm. and trying to be the fixer of all the problems in my family. And it was a pattern that I adopted since a very young age because, I'm the eldest daughter, and my mom not being in the best position at that time to play the role that that I was unconsciously asked to play by my caregivers. And I felt like I never paid attention until like when I was much, much older, not until I was in my 30s, that, hey, I've been on this very painful pattern that has taken me to painful places, and that in return, I have sacrificed so much of my own well-being just, by being in this cycle.
Like, do you feel that it affected you just in your, like, because you were always in that state of, or like that pattern? How do you feel like that affected you, or what made you realize like, oh, okay, something's wrong here?
Well, what made
it is a two-part question. Like, how did it affect you? Like, not like growing up and in your 20s and you're going into relationships and then becoming a mom, or like, how did it affect, and then how did you find out? Like, how did you realize?
I feel that in relationships it affected me because that same pattern I was using within my family system, I was carrying it into my relationships. I was manifesting relationships where I was having to give too much of myself and nothing in return. So that was a way I actually seen in relationships. When I started remembering or going deeper when it came to relationships, it was that I just the same pattern I was using as a daughter at home, I was using it in the relationships as well. And sometimes a lot of the times we actually don't even notice that we're in a pattern and that we're manifesting relationships from that pattern,
Yeah.
And in return, obviously that creates a lot of pain because not only are you being the rescuer in your family, but now you're also manifesting relationships or friendships or jobs or whatever other connections you have where you're giving and giving and giving so much of yourself. Right?
Like, you're still in the caregiving, like you're still caring for others more than you do yourself.
Yeah, because if you show up in one area, like the caregiver or the natural rescuer, you're doing it in other places too. It's not just one place that you are acting.
I could see that.
Behave.
Like, putting that into context, like for me, I think like the little girl that was like insecure in her childhood, feeling like she didn't get in, like she was always alone, left alone, or for some weird. That's how I actually like those are the thoughts that come to mind for me. Like, I was just really insecure about everything. I did not like to be like at school alone. I could not walk down the hallway by myself. Like in middle school, I remember in high school, I felt extremely like just, there's a lot of emotions, but I understand why I had those emotions as a teenager and moving on. But yeah, like all of that came up, and now as an adult, as a grown up in my relationships, as again super insecure, like those it was mirrored by maybe like being like extremely jealous or feeling like I was if this happened, I'm just like not secure in my relationship. I mean, that's just no other way to explain it. Feeling like I just wasn't good enough, always comparing myself to others. Also, I would say feeling like I never wanted it to be left out and like always wanted to be a part of. And then that, I feel like, went into my relationships too, where I never wanted to be left. I never wanted to be alone. Like I would go from like, I always wanted to be dating someone or being with someone, and even if the relationship was not good, I took whatever. I felt like this is like, you have to do whatever it takes, to stay in this relationship and not be left out. Don't be like, don't break up with me. Don't leave me. Don't, and it just wasn't like healthy. I mean, I did not stay in great relationships. I had really, really bad relationships. Not all of them, but I had really bad relationships. I did it. men that had anger issues and like physically abusive. I mean, I wouldn't call them men then, but I also dated men that were really like had extreme narcissist traits, you know, and was very like on his time only, and could care less about what I wanted or anything like that, you know. And so you know, and I did, and I stuck around in those relationships. Like that's sad, but again, I know now why, because I was so insecure. I was not you know, I wasn't sure of myself. I didn't really know myself at all whatsoever. And then I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be left out, you know? Mm-hmm. So all those patterns like stuck with me. Like I could see how they grew with me, just differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're like roots.
Yeah.
That we carry along in our journey, right? Obviously they didn't start in adulthood. They began in childhood, but we just continued to manifest from that place. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very interesting as I was going through my journey to see like, oh my God, I've been in this pattern for this long. Like,
yeah, it showed up differently in every stage of your life, but it still was rooted in that.
Yeah, like I was saying with the family pattern, for me, it was like I was the mother to everyone in my family, right? I had almost...
Because you're the oldest too.
Because I'm the oldest, and I pretty much raised all my sisters, so they would come to me if there was an issue. Like it was me who was solving it. If there was anything happening in the family, it was me the one trying to fix it. And I feel like definitely through seeing that pattern, I was able to remove myself from being the mother of the family and coming down to my own place, right? Which is the daughter and a sister. Mm-hmm. Because not only was I suffering in that pattern of being the mother of the family, I also noticed that I was disempowering the people that I love. Because if I was trying to fix everything for my siblings, how could that be any help to them in any way, right? In return, what I was doing was, the message I was giving them in return was, you're not capable of solving your own problems. I got to do it for you, right?
Yeah.
And when I noticed that I wasn't empowering them, that I was disempowering them, that was kind of like hard for me to see, for sure. So I definitely began exploring that pattern. Yeah. And not only in that specific area, right? There's so many areas that I could touch on, but I think like the family system one was big for me, a big pattern that thankfully I was able to see, hey, in this pattern, I am playing the mom of my family. In this pattern, I have no boundaries. In this pattern, I am self-sacrificing myself. In this pattern, I feel so alone, even though I'm helping, everybody else. But I've placed myself in this position where, because I'm the rescuer and I'm the one that pours out to everyone, then I've positioned myself in the place to create a very lonely world, right?
Yeah.
Because one, in return of me doing that, I created a very hyper-independent identity, right? So I wouldn't ask for help. I wouldn't have many relationships where I felt like I was being poured back into as well, right?
Like from an empty cup.
Yeah. So it was definitely, I felt like in that pattern, I suffered a lot, and it's why, obviously, I feel like it's important that we share this information, because a lot of people sometimes are going through certain things and they think that there's no reason or purpose for them going through certain things. But at the end of the day, it's more like it's teaching us through the experiences or the challenges that we're in a pattern that's no longer serving us to get out.
Out of it. Mm-hmm.
So that was one pattern that for me was definitely very interesting to explore, because from there I dove very deep onto everything else, right? I was able to see everything, the whole pattern, what it contained, what it didn't contain. And once I was able to be aware of the pattern, then I could ask myself, do I want to continue to stay there? Right? And it was in that moment when I said, no, this is not what I want. This is not healthy for me. It's not healthy for my family in any shape, way, or form. And from there, I was able to place myself in a different, more healthier, pattern or environment. But yeah, when we don't know, how do we break through?
And then like you, and then it's crazy because those things that you're in, you keep doing the same thing over and over, and you just keep falling into the same cycle every time. And those are the cycles that we talk about, like breaking the cycle so that you know, when they say, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And so that's really what it is. We go into like this insane pattern that we're not even aware of ourselves, but we're questioning, why is this happening to me all the time? Why am I always in this, why am I always in this state where I'm constantly chasing somebody else, or like I'm constantly like, it's always me. Why are you guys always looking for me to help you? Why do I always have to save you? Why do I always have the crappiest jobs? Why am I not the one that gets picked? Or why, like, you're always like wondering why. But then I just remember saying this recently, not too long ago. Somebody was saying something like how they've been trying something for so long and it hasn't been working, like the way they try and fix a problem. And they're like, I've been doing this for years. And I'm like, yeah, you've been doing this since I've known you, right? And they're like, yes. And I go, okay, so how is that working out for you? And they're like, it's not. And I'm like, exactly. It's time to change you, right? You can't go out there and change anything that is happening around you. You just can't. The only thing you can change is your reaction, yourself, right? So you figuring out what about you is causing the same pattern, the same cycle. Like, what is it? It always has to do with you, not the world. It's not your luck. It's not like maybe karma. I don't know. I believe in karma too. Yes. Karma has to do her thing. So I believe in that too. But even that, I feel like you can even get out of that too. You just have to really realize, first of all, who you are, be super self-aware of why you do the things you do. Where does it come from? Where does it root from? So you can better understand yourself and know why you're in the same cycle all the time. Why are you picking the same men all the time? Why are you picking the same women all the time? Why are you constantly feeling like they're cheating on you? Why do you feel like they don't respect you? Why are you with men who are abusive or with women who are toxicas? Like, why do you keep falling? It's not that God doesn't love you. It's not that, the universe is but the universe is trying to tell you something, It's like, hey, look at yourself. But that's the thing, though, that so many people don't do that. So many people will not do that and will sit there for the rest of their lives until the end of time saying, I just had bad luck. I just had,
bad luck and love. Especially that topic. Let's go deep into that.
Yeah.
Love and relationships.
And relationships, like that in itself. But also too, that's the other point that I was saying kind of at the beginning, where I was trying to say, like, not only does it help you see you and why you react the way you react and why you've been in the pattern that you're in, but it also helps you see other people. Like, it helps you understand others. And so then once you've like understand why you probably do the things you do or why, then you can see others and be like, oh, like it's almost like you've cracked the code.
Yeah, you do. You actually
it's you cracked the code. You figured it out. That is why they, now you can understand and stop being so quick to react. You understand.
Or so judgmental too towards the things. That was big for me too, like what you just said. That helped. It helped me see clear. It helped me understand others around me.
Yeah.
Because before I was so tormented about so many things that were playing in my life and why they happened and why this person did this and that person did that. And it wasn't until I actually was able to understand myself.
Yeah. Like why
right?
you
I was reacting
Yeah,
the way I was reacting, or why I was in the patterns I was in, that then I could see the
Others.
ones in front of me
Yeah.
and have more compassion
Yeah.
instead of like judging all the time and criticizing and why this and why that. One of the big things that actually that helped me with is I stopped trying to save others.
Yeah.
I was
There you
big on trying to
Yeah.
save others because I thought they needed to be
Yeah.
rescued. Now I could see others going through things. And unless you are actually sitting with me and talking with me and want advice, I'll talk to you about it. But let's say I hear a sibling talking about something they're going through, I'm not so quick to react anymore or to even try to save them or give them advice. Now I'm like, oh, they're going through their own lesson.
Yeah.
Step back, you know, unless they ask you for help, don't step in because they're learning something.
Yeah.
But before I carried it so heavy, I was like, oh my God, they're going through A, B, C, and D. I have to help them. They're suffering, they're crying, and it's my responsibility. I felt so heavy like that all the time until I understood myself, until I seen my patterns and all that. Then I was no longer a victim of the pattern.
Yep.
I was more like a student of the
Yeah.
pattern, and once I learned how to start breaking through patterns, then now I could become a teacher and teach others, right, or guide others. So I feel like that's why I feel that this is so important.
Yeah.
Such an important topic to talk about.
Yeah. No, because it's true. But when people say, when people say, what's the quote that goes, something about like, you never know what the other person's going through, or I'll be nice because you never know what the other person's going through.
Yeah.
Like it's true, you always be nice or always smile because you never know the other person, even if the other person's being a complete jerk that day or something. But that's a very surface level kind of what we're talking about, but it's true. And I think, if you take it further, or if you go deeper, that's what we're trying to say. When you understand that, and you forgive yourself for reacting to the things that you couldn't control, because we all do that. We've all done that, and when we're human, we still do, right? We still want to react. I mean, initially, that's like a first reaction. I think I still catch myself reacting to things, and then I'm like, okay, calm down, That is what it is. Instead of just being quick to react, it's more like you understand yourself, you understand why, you forgive yourself for it, and then now you can do this. It's oh my God, yeah, you can't forgive others unless you forgive yourself. Like,
No.
it's just to me, it just seems so crazy how all these things that I would read about and see often, like quotes like that, and now it just makes so much sense to me. It's like this clarity that's crazy, that just that I didn't know maybe almost a year and a half ago. I didn't know, I wasn't aware of. And so now every day just working on these type of things, being really, really honest with myself and understanding what led me to certain things, certain places that I probably was ashamed of or felt guilt for or felt very heavy upon. And now I understand where it all comes from. It all stemmed from somewhere. There is a reason why we did what we did, and like forgiving myself for those type of things was very hard, because I carried a lot of guilt for a lot of things, but then I had to understand like why I reacted that way, right? And again, it goes back to I want to say those main qualities that kind of grew in me and rooted in me: the insecurities, the feeling small, feeling belittled, feeling like left out, like all those things. Because of all of those feelings, it created different, like it evolved inside of me differently in every stage of my life. So, but now I understand that, and like I said, now I can see someone and I can see their reaction and the way they react, and instead of like quickly reacting and sitting in that emotion for a long time, I'm like, I don't see it that much anymore. I kind of feel like, man, that person's hurting,
Yeah, you could have, because you learned how to have compassion for yourself.
Yes.
then you opened your heart to having compassion
Yes,
for others.
exactly.
And that's huge. That's like that, it's life changing when you
Yeah.
begin seeing life and the world and others through that lens. That means that you're seeing life completely through a whole different lens.
Yeah.
And that's like beautiful because you're getting to know yourself in a whole different way, right? More of your authentic self.
Yeah.
Without the masks and without the guilt and the pain and all that
Yeah.
we were carrying. And I do want to go into how unhealthy or broken patterns play in relationships.
Yeah.
I feel like that one's big, right? And that it's important that we go there. One of the ones that really comes up big for me is because this was big in my own journey, was projecting my pain onto the people that I love, right? Especially like my partner. I felt like before my healing journey, before I was aware of any of these things, I definitely did that a lot. I
Yeah.
projected all of my pain onto him, like all
Yeah.
my insecurities, all the sadness, the anger, the doubt, the everything that I was carrying within. I feel like I definitely projected that onto our marriage
Yeah.
very heavily, especially my insecurities, right? And how sometimes in a relationship we could begin pointing fingers, right? Oh, well, I'm mad because he did A, B, C, and D, right? But in reality, what we're doing in that moment is projecting what we're feeling inside out onto that person, onto the relationship,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like from there you could build such a toxic pattern. So sometimes people say, oh, I keep dating toxic people.
Yeah.
It's not that you keep dating toxic people. It's that you keep dating people who are stuck in toxic patterns, in broken patterns.
Yeah.
And why we match other people that are broken, because we are broken ourselves,
Yep.
right? Not that we were born broken, because not even one single soul on earth was born broken.
Yeah.
We come from source, from God itself. So we were not born that way. We learn tendencies through our journey, here on earth that could mirror brokenness,
Yeah.
right? But in reality, no one's broken. No one's born broken. But I definitely feel like, yeah, it's interesting for me now to reflect. I reflect back on all of that and how I used to use that very toxic pattern, and I definitely projected it onto my marriage, onto my whole relationship.
Yeah.
And how many couples don't you think are in that pain, in that place, right? I always think of that because I feel like if I wouldn't have done my own work and would have woken up to how I was projecting my pain onto my partner, I don't think we would have ever made it.
Yeah.
I feel like there's only so much pain we can take, right? In both ways, him and I, right? So it's just like, the reason I share this is because if there's couples out there who are broken up right now, or like who are on the at the edge of a divorce, right? Or just struggling tremendously, is instead of like blaming each other, right, pointing fingers, is look at the pattern that you're in. What is in the pattern? Almost like write a list. What's in my pattern of my relationship with my partner, right? If it's something that you're looking to change, if it's something that you're ready to work on, and just be very brutally honest. Oh, I'm
Like, for
projecting
example, like
what I'm projecting. Yeah.
Like, what do you think would be like an example? Let's say for a couple that I feel like, they're having probably, what is it? Could it be the most thing right now, the most common, like, son bien tóxicos, right? What does tóxicos really mean? That they're just insecure, they're jealous all the time, they want to like more control of the partner, right? They want like to know where you're at, where you're going, who you're with, whatever. Controlling, right?
Very controlling. Yeah.
So like if someone were to say like, oh, I'm always like, I always, no matter what I do, I always find toxic people, or I'm always in a toxic relationship, that's something that they would probably want to sit down and do you feel like it's because they themselves, that's who they are too? But then there's people that say, I kind of low key like my partner to be a little toxico or toxica, you know? And they're like, I kind of like it a little bit. And so then what does that say about them too, you know? So
a vibration match to that
Yeah.
there's a part in them that is also equally just the way the partner is.
Yeah.
And that's why they like it, because they see a part of themselves in them. Something they know very well.
They know very well. Yeah.
Because if you really paid attention, that's been a thing.
Yeah.
Where they made a whole trend that is
Yep.
super cool to date toxic women or it's more like about toxic women, I feel. Oh, it's cool. Like, all women are toxic. This is the way it is. Blah, blah, blah. And it's an actual trend.
Yeah.
To
That's
voice
toxic.
this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't really think that's like that should be a thing that we normalize, right? I mean, I
don't know, maybe it's always been there, but it's not been as open as it is now. But yeah, I'm like, now it's everyone, almost everybody is that certain way. Even sometimes I'm working with clients and they're telling me about their relationship, or I'll hear them talk on the phone with their partner or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, like, you could feel that. I was in an abusive relationship. I wouldn't consider him toxico. Maybe right now, he would be considered a toxico, right? If we were back in the time, right? Oh, he's a little toxico, and it's kind of like normal, like, oh, it's almost accepted, right? But back then, he had to know where I was. He had to know how long I was. If I was in somebody's home, I had to be calling him. And if I was with a friend, or if I was like with family members, it was terrible. Like, I had to sit there and be on the phone with you the entire time I was with my family or whatever. Or I had to like always be, I couldn't look anywhere. I had to look. But I mean, like I said, it was a very like toxic, went to mental and mental and emotional abuse, and then it went to physical abuse, right? But when I see that, where I sense other people are having to overly explain or give explanations as to what they're doing, where they're at, or why they're making the decisions they're making, oh man, it shakes me inside. Like, I start panicking for them, because I know that fear that would come over me, and like, at that time, and I'm like, oh my God, he needs to know. But then I see some people and they're like, oh, the husband can't know, or oh no, I don't tell her, and I'm just like, I'm paranoid, I'm scared. I'm like, is anybody gonna go walk in through my door right now? I'm like, don't tell them where I do the services from. Don't ever tell them my name. Don't tell them who I am. Yeah. But, like I said, that's that type of relationship. And I think, like, for me staying in a relationship like that, I wouldn't really say that, or maybe I was. Like, maybe I was, I wasn't obviously at his level of abuse, but maybe I was also, like, on the toxica side, because if I go back and I really think about it, I wanted to know where he was at. And, I felt like I'd really have no say because, he overpowered me with the way he was. But I kind of wanted to know that too. And then again, I also feel like I stayed in that relationship for such a long time. I was really young, but because I wanted to belong somewhere,
Yeah.
I wanted to just belong.
So what pattern do you think you were in? Like, now looking back, like, for example, in that story, right? Now look at that story from a point of a pattern. What pattern were you, like, addicted to, or like what pattern were you familiar with that you felt safe staying with that person?
Yeah,
right?
I knew way deep inside that I something inside me has always been aware, because I knew that I didn't want to be. I knew that that was not the person that I wanted to be with. I knew that's not, like, I knew it. It wasn't like, oh, I want to be with him for the rest of my life. It was like, I I don't want to be with him for the rest of my life, because this is not the type of life that I want to be in. But I need to be with him right now because I was running away from my household. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get out of my household. I was trying to run away, and I was trying to create life because I wanted to be included. It was the little girl in me that felt left out, that needed someone to have, like I say, create my vision of a family, whatever it was that I wanted at the time. And so I envisioned something different. I envisioned, being, I guess, cared about or asked, like, how are you doing today? Just give attention. As a child, I guess I don't feel like I got it. I don't have many memories of that. And I feel like going into his family and getting to know his parents and his sisters, and it kind of made me feel like, oh, like I can belong here. Like these people are interested in me. Like, when I was like, again, I was young. I was like barely in like my last years of high school, sophomore, maybe junior, senior, and then like a year after that. But still, I wanted that. And that's where that pattern of that was created from when I was young, where I felt like I just wanted to be cared for, belong somewhere. I didn't feel left out. And it just kind of grew into like, I need to stick with this person because I'm probably going to be able to create life with him, and someone's going to care for me, and I'm going to be able to care for someone the way I wanted them to care for me, So, and I like I said, I left that relationship, but I feel like somewhere along the line, I still fell into those patterns where I was still not with the person that I wanted to be with. And deep down, I knew this is not a person I want to be with. I don't want to be with you. But in this time being that I'm with you, you're providing for me something that I need so very much, because I did not know how to be with myself. I didn't know myself. I didn't know nothing about self-love or anything like that. But this person, in those hours or few hours or whatever time that I was with them, they were giving me that, that feeling of like, I'm not alone. I'm with someone that wants to be here, whatever. And I looked for that. I feel like I was the one chasing the people that I wanted to be with, and I ended up in relationships that I did not want to be in, but because I was always chasing that.
Sure. It's almost like how you said at the beginning, I was with these people because I was running from home, right? So then you went looking for that pattern in them. And you knew deep down inside of you that these were not the people you wanted to be with, right? So you knew you would run like away from that. Like that was like a pattern that was showing up for you, right? You're running away from home because of what's happening at home, but then you're running into somebody that resembles what's going on at home.
Yep.
Right? So it's like the body will naturally go to the familiar places, even if it's not what's good for you, right? Because how many times haven't you been driving and you just forgot you're driving? Somehow you're daydreaming or something, but you got there to where you're going, right? And you're like, how did I get here? Yeah. It's the same way with the subconscious mind. It's already recorded what you are looking for, and it takes you to the familiar place. Oh, she always goes to this address. Well, then your subconscious just drives you to the address, right? Yep. So now imagine that in a relationship. Oh, she comes from a household of where they didn't love her, they didn't respect her, they didn't give her attention or love. Then your subconscious records that as your norm, and then goes and looks for it outside of the home in a partner.
Yeah, and even though it's not what my conscious mind, what I want.
Correct. What your heart wants.
Yeah.
But it's what the subconscious has recorded. Yeah. So it's catching that pattern, right? Catching like, hey, that's what you're saying. I was chasing the pattern. I was chasing the familiar feeling in other people.
Yep. I was. It's exactly right. I was always chasing that. And then and then feeling sorry for myself, being the victim. Like, why am I always falling in these with these same people?
Yeah.
I would say, why is it always, the same? Why is it always me putting in the most effort? Me chasing again. Yeah, and that's one thing that I learned, and it's it's something that a lot of people can see or need to do the homework. And I've spoken to a lot of people, and I say, but doing the work is the hardest part. Like, it's not so much as in why am I always doing this? Oh, because such and such 2 years ago broke my heart, and so now I'm this way. No, it's much then. But why did that happen? Go deeper. It normally always leads back to where our roots, where they planted the first seeds, where we were kids. That's where all your thoughts, all your beliefs, your subconscious mind, everything was created in your first 5-7 years. Like, that's where you learned absolutely everything, and from there, that's where you were programmed, and then you absorb everything else. So sometimes you have to go back into the program and try and find out what was recorded here that is causing all of this now, you know? But that's where you have to go deep. It's not surface level. It's not shit that happened last year. It could have been something triggered what happened last year, but what's beyond that? Like, what happened before that, and what caused you to react that way? What caused that? What was it? And no, if you're sitting there saying it was the other person that made this happen, or it was because such and such, no, it's that then you're still not. It's still not.
Still an illusion. You gotta see through the illusion, see through the programming that you were programmed with as a kid. See through all the patterns that you made familiar. There's so many familiar patterns that are hurting us. The other day I heard one of the girls I follow on Instagram, she was talking about how she had a conversation with her dad. She's an older woman already, and she was telling her dad, Dad, like, I have a lot of problems with love. Like, I just cannot seem to find the right person. And the dad told her, the only way to fix that, he said, is stop trying to date me. Stop looking for me in the men. How powerful is that? When I heard that, oh, my heart cried, because not only what a powerful moment, but also for a father to have said that to their daughter, to recognize, I know you've seen a lot of messed up things in me, or not very positive traits growing up, but this isn't your norm, right? Like, the other day I was talking to one of my family members, and I told her, I was giving her advice about love, and I said, the only reason why I'm giving you this advice and I'm talking to you in this way of breaking patterns, I was like, it's because I don't want you to normalize things that are not normal. Being in a relationship where you feel miserable 24/7. Of course, relationships are going to have issues. Yes, we all do. But what I'm saying is, you're so unhappy, so depressed, just in a bad place every single day is not normal. It isn't. But we've normalized. Yeah. Oh, it's normal. Like, everyone goes through that. At what, to what degree? You know what I mean? To what degree is something normal and something a pattern and something you're willing to put up with, right? So it's but sometimes we just have to make those really tough decisions, or really dive deep into these subjects, so that you could self-reflect on what's really playing behind everything,
Yeah, I know. And that's one of the things that that right now I'm hearing a lot of people that are in these relationships, and they're just well, I mean, he's my person, or that's who, or she's the one. I mean, yeah, she's that way, but what am I supposed to do, And you're just what do you mean? What are you supposed to do? I think start with you first. You know, you're not going to be able to change the other person, but start with you first. And then get to know yourself so you understand why you're making the decisions you're making, so you can understand why you're choosing to stay. But once you have that information, you're going to be able to make that decision, you know? And whether you stay or you go, you make the decision, but you're knowing yourself, you know, you're understanding why. But it's true. There is a lot of people that are in super, super unhappy relationships that I also know myself. And I'm just like, damn, you know, like that's, or they say like, no, we have to like, I'm willing to fight for our relationship. I want to fight for it. But like, yeah, okay, you're fighting for it. What about the other person? It's just fighting you while you're fighting for it, you know? But yeah, I think, self-aware. So like, what do you think? Because I mean, like self-awareness, what do you think, how can they get self-awareness of the broken patterns? Like, do you feel like journaling would be a good thing? I'm trying to remember how I became so self-aware of like my patterns.
I feel that we become very self-aware of the patterns through pain.
Yeah.
Pain, like the immense pain that we begin feeling about something.
Yeah.
Is what usually will raise a flag like, hey, something's happening, you know what I mean? And then you begin digging deep, right? Like, okay, why I've been feeling this. And you start exploring why you have the emotions that you have. And then you go to the root. But I feel like awareness is pain for me has done what's brought awareness, what has led me onto the path of awareness. And to actually begin breaking the patterns is going to be through doing the work. You cannot bypass the work. You cannot. And if you do bypass it, you're not going to have the results that you're looking for. They could be superficial. You cannot bypass anything at all. So it's like you gain awareness that you're in a repetitive or negative pattern, right? Then you dig deep, go deep into how it's made you feel, how it's been playing in your life, how it's been affecting you on a day-to-day basis. And then once you go into those places, you could visit childhood. Where was this born?
Yeah.
I wasn't born this way. I wasn't born enmeshed in this pattern, right? So questioning things, questioning everything you were taught, because a lot of the times to break through patterns, you're going to have to unlearn what you were taught.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to question, like, well, what else is else is not real? What else do I have to fix, right? I that's what I experienced. I had to, like, my whole entire reality got shocked when I went to those cycles, because then I was able to see through illusions, through patterns, through like, okay, a lot of this stuff that I was taught, it served me to survive to a certain degree, but it's not serving me anymore, right? So once you're able to see like something's not serving you, then that's when you can begin the change, because now you're in that mindset of like, I don't want to keep living like this. I want to live happier or more connected or in truth or whatever the situation is, right? And beginning to change those patterns is gonna sometimes even go against what you were naturally taught since you were a kid.
Yeah, what comes from like your parents and your parents' and
it feels weird at the beginning. It definitely feels like I'm betraying my family. I'm betraying what I was taught. And you know, because you're gonna start going against all the programming that you had since a kid, right? And then rewriting the program, rewriting the patterns to something that serves you. When we were kids, we didn't have a choice because we were kids. We're no longer kids. We have a choice now. And now if we choose to stay there when we're aware of it, then that's a choice now. You're actually consciously making a choice to live in that place, right? So it's like it is definitely a journey that isn't easy.
Yeah.
Because it does require a lot of self-reflection, a lot of like breaking through like all this. I almost see like gunk like
Gunk,
this,
yeah.
just breaking through all that and transforming it, and it's not easy, but it is life-changing and it's rewarding, and what's even more important is that you're no longer passing this on to the next generations because it ends with you.
Yep.
And that to me is the most powerful thing. Like if it could end with me and my daughters don't have to live that and my granddaughter doesn't have to break that and go through the heartache that I went through to break that cycle, to me that's a win. Right? So it's like it's powerful to
Yeah,
see
it's so
through it.
freeing.
Yeah.
It's so freeing to know I'm not tied to this belief, you know? And I've been catching myself saying these things, like, my husband would say something and I'm like, well, if you really think about it, that's just a belief that we had. Like that was ingrained in us when we were young, and it's, maybe served us a purpose for a certain amount of time, but now we don't have to. Like that's a belief, it's not real, it's not reality. Like I'm gonna create my own, like we create our reality. It's not gonna be created for us. So yeah, it's extremely freeing. You break those cycles, you're breaking the chains, you are starting afresh, and you don't have to follow them. And like Divi said, if you continue in that pattern, that's you making that conscious decision. Once you're aware, you're making that decision, and then that's on you, right? But but staying in the unknown, like that's, yeah, man. And I try and tell people the same thing too, to do the work, to start learning about themselves. Always start with yourself. Always, always, always. Don't try to fix your spouse. Don't try to fix your friends. Don't try and fix your parents, your siblings, nobody. You work on yourself. If your partner, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is not what you want them to be, they're like being extremely, making everything so difficult for you once or whatever, it's not on them. It's on you. Like that is, you work on you first. Try and figure out why these things that they're doing is causing you such a reaction. Try to understand where that reaction comes from. And a lot of the times you're going to be very surprised to find out why you're reacting the way you are reacting. So, yeah, that's really, bringing awareness to it. I think we should definitely like continue this conversation though with the patterns, because one thing is like acknowledging them and learning them, how, but then like, what can we do? Like once we acknowledge them, the work, the actual work part. And because that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different topic. Like I was literally sitting here thinking, I'm like, hey, at what point did I realize, what made me realize that, let me start looking at myself first. And then what did I do from there? Like, yeah, it's all coming back to me right now. I'm remembering the exact reasons as to why I had to do that work, so I think we should do a part 2.
Yeah, I agree, definitely, because the inner work after this, it's a whole process, and then it will be an ongoing process. I don't think it stops. I think it once you uncover every broken cycle doesn't only have one layer. It's like an onion.
Yeah.
It has multiple and multiple and multiple layers. And the reason it has multiple layers is because it's in that process of you discovering and peeling those layers, you will get to know yourself more and more and more. And the journey is about getting to know the self, not getting to know other people's selves.
Yeah.
Our own self, our
Yeah.
soul, our being. And that's the journey
Yeah.
of it all. So yeah, definitely I agree that a second part where we go into those parts would be great.
Awesome. Well, this was great. Thank you very much. Thank you to our listeners who are listening. We're so happy, guys. We're so happy for everyone that's been sharing. I love when people come up to me and they're like, Lou, I was listening to your podcast. I'm like, thanks. Sometimes I'm like, yes, I do have a podcast. My kids are super excited. They're like super excited about it. But anywho, it's very exciting. Thank you guys for mentioning it, for mentioning it to others and sharing. We're really, really happy. But yeah, give us feedback. Let us know what you're thinking. You can always find us on Unlocking Our Code podcast on Instagram. I'm Lou. You can find me at The Plug by Revive.
And I'm TV, and you can find me at DVSci Coaching Center.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much, and we'll be catching you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.